So we have Sharon. You got Peanut Butter Falcon. I've got High
Yes.
Score. Sean, what have you got?
I've got all the Transformers movies.
What?
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that is almost in tears because we thought we thought it was safe to go out of the water. We thought it was fine. We thought we were out of the lockdown, and just when we thought we were out, they pull us back in. So, my name is Tosin. I am your tier. Sir Sean.
I was just going to say that's a Godfather 3 quote, isn't it?
It is a Godfather 3
They
quote.
pull me back in.
They pull me back in the week in which we hear
cool.
that Francis Ford Coppola is planning to release another cut of Godfather 3.
Oh, wow.
He's going to re-edit it and sort of do something with another cut. I'm like, okay, we'll see what it has to do. But anyway, my name is Tosin. You've already heard me speaking. I'm the host for want of a better word. I am up in Coventry in the Midlands. Joining me, as always, on the Isle of Wight, Sharon.
Hello.
And you've already heard him, Shaun.
Hiya.
Right. Yes, as I said, we are almost in tears because just as we were about to feel safe, just as we were about to feel happy, they, and by they I mean the kind of people who go and rub up against each other on the beaches of Bournemouth, Shaun, your hometown, which we have already established on this podcast. None of those people were actually from Bournemouth. Those sort of people, are trying to take it away from us. Just as we got cinema back, they're trying to take cinema away from us because this is the week in which in the UK, the government have announced that we're going to have to scale back our scale back our lockdown procedures and sort of go one step back. And now it is another one of these confusing guidelines that says something like you're only allowed to meet with a maximum of 6 people for social issues outside the home. I don't know what that means. But Sharon, we have just started off. We started up a Facebook group called Netflix versus Cinema Chat, where people who listen to the show or people who just want to talk about film stuff can go in there and talk about things. We already had Patrick Russell, friend of the show, being hit by the autocorrect demons and calling me toxin. So, and I think it was...
You've got to love autocorrect, haven't you?
You've got to love autocorrect. And I think it was the night that it was released because you put this on pretty late at night, probably like 11, going, "Oh my God, what does this mean for our cinemas?"
Oh.
So tell us, Sharon, what are your fears? What are your fears with this whole new? We have to scale back some lockdown freedoms.
Yes, well, my first thought was, well, that puts paid to church, that puts paid to the cinema, that puts paid to our outdoor garden cinemas that we've been doing at Shaun's place. I've looked at it a bit closer since then. So my initial reaction was, right, Mother, we are going to be walking in the middle of nowhere from now on. We are going to be avoiding all social contact because we don't tend to go to like a beach or an esplanade and we don't like to have a potter about. And there are people about, but we've become a bit more acclimatized to human contact. So we've been a bit more casual, but we were thinking, right, that's it. We are not going within... We'll be carrying like a broomstick with us. If you can touch you with my broom, you're too close. But then having read some of the rules, I think church is okay because they're saying as long as you stay within a social bubble of 6 people and you don't mix that up, you can still meet in a building. So I'm thinking that we might be okay with cinemas. Obviously, it's for the managers of the cinemas to decide. If they can't sell blocks of seats of more than 6, I would imagine that's how they're going to say it.
Yeah.
Because in my church, what we do is we have like cafe style seating. So we have a little table.
Yep.
And then we have like 4 or 5 chairs around that one table. And we're told, we've got a one-way system. You come in and you sit down at your table and then you don't get within certain distance of other tables. And we're very good at maintaining we all have to wear our masks the whole time. We've got no live music. We have it all, we're all hand sanitizers. And
so you're saying for us to continue to enjoy this freedom of being able to watch films in the cinema, Odeon, Cineworld, The Light, all these people need to come to your church and say, how do you do it?
This is how we've managed. We've managed this for 2 months now, and we've not and we have our own QR code, because with the NHS Test and Trace app that they've been piloting on the island and other places, you have a QR code and you buzz yourself in when you turn up. And so as long as people are doing that, then I think we can do this, people.
we can do this, people. Just don't be an idiot. Don't go to raves. Don't rub up against other people. Stay away from people if you go to a restaurant. If you actually absolutely must go to a restaurant. But
don't lick anything and just don't touch anything, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll be okay.
Yeah. And so, cinemas can stay open.
I'm hoping that I haven't heard any announcements from them. I do keep looking on their Cineworld page and stuff. I haven't heard an announcement where they're saying, you know what, it's not worth it.
I do think that they will stay open, because just like you were saying, Sharon, in the blocks of 6. I mean, so I still think so. But what's quite good, we've had this discussion before. I was looking at what's on next week, and there's about 3, probably a couple of films that you like that I was thinking, oh, Sharon.
Yes, there's a few I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. There's a New Zealand one out. I forgot what it's called, but that looks quite a good film. But that's an 18.
Yeah, I think it's Misbehaviour finally out. I think that's due to be released as well.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Misbehaviour. I think it's about the group of women who tried to sabotage the Miss World competition.
Yeah. Because that was going to be released pretty much the week that lockdown hit, because the adverts were for it everywhere. They were everywhere, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. And I think Gugu Mbatha-Raw is the Miss World, the first black Miss World. And she said, hang on a minute, this is my dream. And this means a lot to me as a woman as well. And so it's like, there isn't one argument about women's liberation. It's like, no, this is the only argument. It's saying, actually, there are 2 sides to that argument. So I think it could be an interesting film to watch. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
I think so. I'm actually looking forward to that one. I thought I'd missed it because I thought we'd missed a chance in the cinemas. All right, so and I know that online there's people who have quite a cynical view, which I kind of I think I have to. I think I have a lot of time for this view, that essentially anything that makes the government money or that can be taxed will stay open, and it will not be blamed. It will not be blamed for the rising COVID cases. So someone was there's a lady, Helen O'Hara. She's a film journalist. She writes for Empire magazine, and she was saying, "So excuse me, but you're saying you can't meet up in each other's homes." But sure enough, it's easier to trace that because people know who's been in their homes. But restaurants and pubs are not taking anybody's details. They are not taking anybody's details of who's been in there and all that. But they're allowed to stay open, and they're not being blamed for the spike. And people are like, well, you see, because the government makes money off that. Anything that's going to make money, it's not going to get blamed.
Got to pay for this somehow, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 6 people. You can't meet 6 people in your home, but you can have more than 6 people at your workplace. Every new directive we get seems to contravene about 5 other ones that we used to have. But anyway, let's get on to
They don't want to go down the whole lockdown road again, do they? They're saying, we can't have another lockdown, but we want to make you feel like you're in another lockdown. Just behave like you are.
Yeah, well, if people had just behaved like that in the first place.
Oh, by the way, a change of tack here.
Yes.
I've just listened on the radio, actually, just earlier on, and Diana Rigg died, didn't she?
Yes.
Diana.
She died. It was released about an hour ago.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a real sort of shame, really. Well, because I really rated her highly. Yeah, I mean, it's a good age.
Yeah, so. it's a good age, but still. Yeah. Okay, so this is like breaking news as we're recording this. So let's go. Okay, let's go. What was the first time you saw Diana Rigg in something? First time.
Mine was The Avengers. The Avengers, a TV series, a black and white Avengers, where she was just like, she was like a boy
Emma
crush.
Peel.
She was, Emma Peel in a nice little black leather catsuit, just like kicking ass.
Yeah, I remember that as well.
Probably James Bond. I think it's James Bond.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I watched the James, on His Majesty's Secret Service, on Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think that's probably the first time I thought, who's that lady? Diana Rigg? Because when I was watching the Avengers, it was
Tara King.
Her name was gone. It was the new Avengers.
Joanna Lumley.
Lumley, yeah.
Was Linda? There was Linda Thorson came after Diana Rigg. So you had Honor Blackman, Diana Rigg, and then her name was Linda Thorson. I used to think she was quite hot as well.
No, the Avengers. It was the new Avengers, and it was Joanna Lumley when I was growing up.
Shaun, do you think that maybe the Avengers had a formula or had a pattern? It's Patrick
I think it probably
McAmee.
did. Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely had a pattern. Definitely had a
Patrick
pattern,
McAmee.
you know. But I remember,
and a woman who make people go, oh, she's nice.
yeah, exactly. She's nice. I mean, because even like the new Avengers with Joanna Lumley. So, I mean, everybody used to sort of like her. I think she had a name. I can't remember what her name was.
It was something like Purdy.
Purdy.
Yeah, but I think like going back to On Her Majesty's
Dame
Secret
Diana.
Service,
Yeah.
like Sharon was saying, that was a really good role because she wasn't like the typical Bond girl because she actually married
she
James
wasn't.
Bond, didn't she? They actually got married in that.
Yeah, she was the
And
only
so,
one who's
like,
married.
like, yeah, most Bond girls were a bit sort of eye candy-ish, whereas she was, although she was eye candy, she was also a little bit more serious. But for me, the best part I think she played, and I know it's probably because it's so recent, was in Game of Thrones. I thought she was.
Yes, Oleana Thorne. Yes.
When she has that discussion with Charles Dance, is it Charles Dance? No, not Charles Dance. Yeah, it is.
Yes, Tywin Lannister.
Tywin Lannister.
Tywin Lannister. Where they have that conversation, that's just like two absolute stalwart actors just playing off each other and just doing their job. So
she was the Queen of Thorns. Is it the Queen of Thorns they called her?
Something like that, yeah.
Lady Olenna, she was Lady Olenna Tyrell. I don't think
Tyrell, that's it.
Tyrell. But the thing is,
because they had the rose. Their sigil is the rose, isn't it? And they're from the rose, the rose garden or whatever, the arbor or whatever they call it.
It's definitely some sort of flower.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, bro, because I think for me in Nigeria, we grew up and we had the black and white Avengers. Even in the 80s, we had the black and white Avengers, and so we used to. I can't remember what his name was. John something, the guy with the bowler hat. I know the name of the Steed. That was it, John Steed and Emma Peel, and we knew her from there. It was ages before I saw her in a Bond film, but I have to admit, I really, really do enjoy the later Diana Rigg stuff. Like when she grew older, and when you got to realize, or she got the chance to show that it wasn't just about her being like, Emma Peel. Oh. It wasn't just about that. It was about, oh my God, she's actually a brilliant, brilliant actor. She is amazing. Yeah. And so I agree with you, Shaun. I love Game of Thrones for that. I love her in Game of Thrones. I think that it's like there are some... She has for me, she has some of the best lines and some of the best put downs.
Oh, definitely.
About and even her final episode. I mean, all the way up to her final episode is just like she's just such a kick-ass character. And I think,
isn't she just? Yep.
Yeah, you could just see Diana Rigg having fun and having so much fun with that character. It's almost as if, like, because she was like the older woman who's been around long enough that she doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, and it was almost as if that was Diana Rigg. I've been around long enough. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I'm just gonna show up, be awesome, and you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Her comic timing was impeccable as well, because I remember her she's been on this weekend. I saw her in All Creatures Great and Small in the new version of it. She plays the lady who has the dog Tricky Woo, and so she's sort of had this awful Pekingese dog. And actually, she was a scene stealer in The Detectorists, which I absolutely loved, which I think has been the best comedy of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And she played her daughter's the mother to her real life daughter, who was in Detectorists. But yeah, she was the most withering mother-in-law that you can imagine for Mackenzie Cook's character, and so she was perfect in that. So I think her comic timing was impeccable, and the way she can deliver these withering put downs is just
I do love it when I do absolutely love it when she's withering. I do absolutely. So Dame Diana Rigg, you will be missed. It feels like we're saying that about somebody every single week now. It
seems to be the year for it, doesn't it? Again, we've had this year of let's just everything that we can possibly think of to throw at you. Let's do that.
Okay. So, what we're going to do this week. So, you might have wondering, Netflix cinema, what's going on? And we mentioned last week, if you listen to the episode of the podcast last week, that essentially Tenet seems to have made everybody run scared. So this week, we've had nothing new in cinemas. There's absolutely nothing in cinemas that we haven't already seen or reviewed on this show. So, what we are doing this week is the return after 3 weeks away, of the film buff interview. We have a film buff interview, but first of all, we're going to talk about the things that we have been watching at home this week. So we've chosen 3 things. Each one of us has chosen one thing each that we're going to be talking about, and we're going to say about what it is that we've seen. And I would like to start off with Shaun, because Shaun,
Yeah, I knew you'd love this.
your viewing habits this week, because just before we started, we're talking about what it is we've seen this week. And Shaun, you came on and you said you had watched not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but oh no, you went and watched 5 Transformers movies.
Yes, I did. Yes,
Shaun, we've spoken about this. What happened? What happened? Why did you go watch 5 Transformers movies back to back?
Okay, basically they were on the Sky Movies, and I wasn't feeling particularly good.
I know you watched 5 Transformers movies. That's a straight up indication that you were not feeling that well.
Let's go through and I have to say, I've always liked 1.
Yes,
so,
yes.
I mean, I can't fault 1. And I just thought, oh well, because I hated the others so much, I thought I'd have a look and actually see. And I have to say, all of them had moments. The only one I really did, I mean, I've forgotten what they are, like Dark Side, I mean, whatever. The one I didn't like was the one I really didn't like was the one with the Dinobot things. The
Age of Extinction.
Age of Extinction. Yeah.
So I think it goes Transformers, then it goes Dark of the Moon, Revenge of the Fallen, Age of Extinction, and The Last Night.
Yeah.
I don't know why I know that.
So, that's it. Just because you don't like them too much.
I need to know what I don't like, so really. I don't accidentally watch it.
Yeah, I know. So I don't really know what to say about them, really. I mean, I obviously, I'd say I watched them, and I did watch them, and they were on, but there were moments when I was sort of distracted by other things. But it's just that they were on one after the other. So I thought, oh, that's pretty handy. You know what I mean? It was Sky Action, whatever. Oh, I just watched the next one. Just finished watching, seeing what. And it's not all that bad, Tosin. I have to say, it's not as bad as I remember them.
If you watch them back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I did.
Didn't they all just sort of like meld into one noisy mesh of loud noise, metal clashing on CGI metal nonsense after a while?
Yeah, they did. So, but what was quite interesting as well was while it was on, I sort of had the computer on, and I was just doing getting the names like you know, as I say, obviously you got the Bumblebee, but there was like Barricade.
Oh yeah.
And Jazz and all them. So I started
although I was same ones in each film.
Not necessarily, not in all of them.
You get the same bangy crashy things in the same film.
There's different types of them. There's different, but I mean,
Optimus Prime, is he in all of them?
Yes.
Optimus Prime is.
Yeah, he's like the James Bond of Transformers.
Yeah, he is.
Okay,
he
so
he's like. But what gets
the
me
nasty one? Is it Mega? What's it? Is there a Mega? What's it?
Megatron. Yeah.
Tron.
And then you got
all
sorts. You got like the full. Yeah. Pardon?
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
I've seen a couple of them. Yeah, I'm never getting that. A couple of hours back. I have seen a couple of them.
Okay. So, Shaun, you were going to say something.
I was going to say something. Yeah, I was going to say that. So as I was sort of, as the robots were coming up, I was like thinking, because there's like stuff about Transformers on the net that you just wouldn't believe. There's just so much stuff, and
there's a massive mythology.
I mean, it was interesting to find that my 2 favourite, or I sound a real geek now, don't I? My 2 favourite Autobots was Barricade, which was a police car, and Ironhide. And Ironhide, I like Ironhide. And it was interesting because obviously I was looking when I was watching them, and that's the same voice. So my 2 favourite characters, the voices are the same voice actor.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah, and he's just, I reckon he was just a voice actor. He's not particularly...
It's not Frank Welker, is it?
I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Is there an army vehicle one? Is there like a military vehicle one? Or
there's all sorts. There's Jeeps. There's Jeeps and Arctics and
the thing is, if if you try and make sense of the Transformers movie, that way madness lies. Because
there's no sense to imposing. You're exactly right.
Because
keep up with him.
Because the thing is, Sharon, to answer your question as to is it the same Autobots in each film, I think in the original cartoon they were all different primary colors, so you could tell which ones were which. In the films, as they went on, it got harder and harder to tell. You'd have two robots fighting, and you don't know who's fighting. You don't know whether that's the good guy or the bad guy. You just don't know. It's just like dark gray metal fighting in dark gray metal. And also between films, the personnel of the robots would change with absolutely no explanation for why they changed.
At all. I know.
Absolutely no explanation why they changed. And I just, oh good Lord. I mean, Transformers: The Last Night. I mean, that is a film, because Shaun, I know that you are a very, very generous film reviewer, especially on second view. Especially on second viewing, you tend to soften. Yes. You tend to soften.
I do tend to soften, yeah.
But I know that in all these films, there are bits where I think Michael Bay, who directed all of them, people said that he is a good director of moments. Like, there will be moments that you think, oh my God, that was wonderfully orchestrated. But when it comes to story, the guy has no clue what he's doing. So it's...
I think I would agree with that, because there are moments in each of these films. There are moments in each of these films which are okay, which actually held my attention. And then, like, I agree with you totally. It's just like, you know, you got Nest and all them, and then it just goes like, what's going on there? It's like whirly, smashing, bit smashing, and all.
But on the whole, are they entertaining? Is it an entertaining watch?
Well, I was entertained, but
that's good enough for me.
Say they were any, but I think that no, not good enough for a rating, really. I mean, they all sort of melded into one, you know, and it was like Tozen said, they're all very, very, very similar, you know. But they had moments. There were some pretty good moments. I think I quite like some of the actual human moments, like the Nest team. Yeah, I know. I thought it was quite funny, but I thought it'd be an interesting thing to you know, bring up on the show to see, because I know we hated them. So yeah, they're not really worth. They're all pretty much the same movie. Some good bits in each of them.
But
the first one, I do really like the first one. The first one I think is really, really good. Yeah. I would have liked to see in Revenge of the Fallen. What amazed me, there was all these loads of fights going on and everything going on, but then when it come to the fight with the Fallen, that was rubbish. Like over in seconds. You know what I mean? It's just like, what? I waited all this time, all this smashing, all like going on for ages and ages, and then it lasts like, oh, right, okay. That didn't last long.
Yeah. But I'll say, sure, if you get a chance, about the only Transformers movie that I would actually want to revisit is Bumblebee. The Bumblebee one was actually quite good. But I would say this...
That's quite a new one, isn't it?
That's a new
one. With Haley Steinfeld?
I see, I don't like that. You see, that's... I hate Bumblebee, by the way. He's my worst.
Oh, he's probably the only one I would recognise in a lineup.
Is it? I cannot stand him. So...
Yeah, Bumblebee was there for the kids. All right, so last week, to wrap up this Transformers talk, last week, Shaun, we said about how you are the kind of man who will go and take one for the team, and I think you've just cemented your reputation as somebody who will do that this week. You decided to go back, take one for the team, watch all 5 Transformers movies back. I mean, why? Anyway, we'll move on. And so we'll move on to Sharon. And Sharon, this week you have seen... I'm not even going to bother asking for a rating. So Sharon, this week you said that you saw the Peanut Butter Falcon, a film that I mentioned last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to go watch that. Shia LaBeouf. That's a good Shia LaBeouf movie as opposed to at least 2 of the Transformers movies. So tell us, Peanut Butter Falcon, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I hadn't really heard much about it. I know you mentioned it last time, but I hadn't really registered much about the film, whether it had a previous cinema release and it's just now appearing on Netflix, or whether it's a Netflix original. I don't know. But yes, it was, Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson.
Yep.
And quite a few, actually, people popping up all over the place. You go, oh, I know that. It's the guy from Deadwood. Oh, and that's the guy who was in that other thing.
Yeah, Bruce Dern shows up for a while.
Bruce Dern's in the beginning, yeah. So, yeah, there's quite a starry cast, really. But, yeah, basically, the Peanut Butter Falcon is about, there's this young man who is in a social care situation. He's a young man, but he's living in an old folks home. And the only reason he's living in this old folks home is because he has Down syndrome, and they don't have anywhere that he can live. And so the best they can do for him is to say, right, you've got to be in some sort of housing situation, so we're going to put you in this old folks home. So he is the youngest person there by 50 years. And needless to say, he keeps trying to run away. And so they put him down as a flight risk.
Yeah.
Because he wants to live his life. He's a teenager. He's a young man.
Yeah.
And so he's in a room with Bruce Dern. His roommate is Bruce Dern, who's this old hand who has seen and done everything. And basically, they rig this escape. So he manages to get away. And his passion and his dream is this American wrestling. And he's got this old VHS video, which has this sort of come to my wrestling school in this sort of south of Carolina or somewhere in the middle of, and you'll come and I will teach you how to fight and wrestle. And his name is, I can't remember what his name is.
Oh, saltwater something.
The saltwater, yes, it's like the saltwater redneck or something. But
yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so he has this odyssey. So he then sets out on this odyssey-like journey.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Hayden Church is this.
Yeah, in a brilliant pastiche of 80s WWF wrestlers. I love it.
Oh yeah, where he has the makeup and he has this persona where he's like, I am the overacting that they do. This young man called Zach, he's decided that if he's going to get away and he's going to enlist or join this wrestling school. And then it sort of the rest of the film basically is an odyssey where along his journey he meets these different people and he has these sort of different adventures. But quite early on in his journey, he sort of basically meets up with Shia LaBeouf's character called Tyler.
Yeah.
Who's on his own journey of redemption, and if he's seeking something that he has lost, and you understand what he has lost during the course of the film. Yeah. And so they then set off on this journey together, and it's part the Odyssey, it's part Huckleberry Finn, because they're following the course of this river. So the river plays its own character in the film as well. And at one point, someone said to them, "How long are we going to be on the river?" And he says, "Oh, it's about that much on the map." And he holds up his fingers up and he says, like 2 inches on the map. And they say, "Okay, how long is that in time? How long will it take?" He was like, "Oh, 1 or 2 days." They're like, "Days?" It takes days to get somewhere on the river. And so you get the feeling that, this is a journey that's taking its time, but they're growing and they're learning, and it's a physical and it's a spiritual and it's a meaningful journey in other means. Okay. And so it does cut. There's drama, there's tension, there's bad guys in it. So it has all the marks of an adventure story with these characters of an odyssey, basically.
Yeah. So now before this week, I think Shaun was the only one who'd seen this film all the way through. Shaun saw this a while back, and I think for a while now, Shaun, you've had like you've essentially marked Shia LaBeouf down as somebody you're like, you know what, I like him. He's good. He's quality.
Yeah. So I know you liked him in Fury, which is like marks his almost like renaissance, didn't it? Where he came back to being taken seriously again.
Where he escaped from the Transformers movies.
Yeah, when he escaped from there. And I think it's like a redemption for him. So although he'd gone this movie, because I mean, he's redeemed himself with Honey Boy as well, which I rated really, really highly. And I think he's gone on to show, because he was, I don't know if would you call it typecast? Would you call him typecast? I guess so.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. And now he's proved that he is actually a really, really decent actor. I mean, Sharon, in this film, The Peanut Butter Falcon, what did you like him? Did you dislike him? Did you feel sympathy for him? He was in this. He played quite a strange sort of character, I thought. Because with where he was staying and that. So, and you couldn't. He didn't really endear himself, I don't think, but he was still. There was something there.
I liked him. I thought I liked the way he interacted with Zach, because he he saw him as a person first. He didn't see
that's exactly,
the fact that he was someone who has Down syndrome, which is just, it should not be the first thing you notice about someone. No. You get the feeling that he was like, yeah, so what? You know, he was more interested in him as a person as the story went on. I like there's interesting bits of the fact where this guy Zach, he runs away and he's only dressed in his underpants. Most of the first bit of the film, he's just in his pants. And you see this other guy, he's got this backpack on his back with a pair of boots that are swinging on it. And he doesn't immediately go, here, have my boots, or here, I've got a spare shirt. You look quite a long way into the journey before he says, look, put these boots on. But you see them swinging away on the back of his backpack the whole time, and this lad is walking along with bare feet. And I'm like, give him the boots. But he doesn't just go, oh yeah, you're someone who needs help, I'm going to help you. He's like, you know what, if you can walk with me, that's fine, but you're looking after yourself, chum. And I like the fact that
first rule, don't slow me down.
Yeah. First of all, party. Yeah, so there's a lot about this film that I really liked.
Yeah, okay, so as I said, I mentioned this film last week, and I have started watching it, but I haven't finished watching it. But I think, because Shaun, I'm with you with Shia LaBeouf, when he does something now, you're like, at the very least, it's going to be interesting. At the very least, it is. You're going to be like, okay, this is going to be something worth watching, even if I might not get on with it, but it's going to be something that's going to be worth watching. And this film, I think within about 5 minutes of this film starting, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to like this. I think I'm going to like this a lot. And I unfortunately don't have the director's name or anything like that, but I feel like there are very few films recently I've seen that have set the scene out so quickly. Like the opening scene with Zach and the old people's home and everything. I think there's very few films that have set the scenes out so well that you immediately go, I think I am going to get on well with this film. And I think Peanut Butter Falcon, I am waiting to finish watching it. I think I'm going to get well with it. So, Sharon, you sound like you loved it. You sound like it's quite a high score.
I liked it a lot. So, I'll definitely give it a 4. Definitely give it a strong 4, definitely.
And Shaun, do you concur?
Yeah, I totally concur with that. Yeah, strong 4. Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. Good stuff. Okay, and now we get onto the film buff interview. So this is a bit where we started off during lockdown. We were thinking cinema wasn't around, and so we are going to celebrate cinema by talking to somebody who loves it. And as you'll hear in this interview, we ask a couple of questions, and that is, you'll hear what the questions are. We ask 4 patented questions that we do here on Netflix vs. Cinema. And this week we get to speak to Seb Junemann. We have a history, as you will hear, a history in musical theater and all that kind of stuff. But this is what Seb had to say about cinema, films, and all that. Seb Junemann, thank you so much for joining us on Netflix vs. Cinema. It is lovely to have you on the podcast this week.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, now, I'm not sure whether you've listened to any of the other episodes of the podcast or seen what it is that we do. But when lockdown happened and cinemas went, obviously Netflix was a cinema, and it's hard to have a podcast called that when cinema is not there. So I essentially sort of go on my contacts books and started going through my life and going, okay, let's see. I've been a film buff. I must have hung around people with similar ideas and similar things, and I've been having a lot of fun meeting up with catching up with people, going, oh yeah, you did stuff.
Yeah.
And with you, we connected first of all at Imperial College London in the dramatic side of things, the DramSoc and the Musical Theatre Society, and you are actually the man who gave me my first ever role in an onstage musical.
Yeah. Yeah, you were in. A funny thing happened on the way to the forum. And,
yes.
And yeah, it was great fun. It was probably. I'm trying to think. I think that was my first directorial sort of job at Imperial.
Yes. I think it was your first one. Yeah.
And yeah, a huge amount of fun. But yeah, no, thanks. In terms of the sort of the cinema side of things and the film side of things, it's always been a bit of an extension of my love of the stage as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like I'm trying to think if we talked too much at the time that we were doing all the sort of drama stuff about movies and stuff.
I actually really don't think we did. I really don't think we did. I know that there was a time when, because mutual friend Al Norman he pretty much got a whole bunch of people into Breaking Bad. And I know that there was a time we had a Breaking Bad group where it was all just about watching Breaking Bad and going, have you seen it yet? Have you seen it yet? No spoilers, no spoilers. Quick, over here, private group. We need to talk about this now.
Were you at Al's sort of like final episode party round at his house where we watched it on a big screen?
No, I wasn't but for the final season, which is when I joined the Breaking Bad Avengers. I was on the Isle of Wight. So
yeah, of course you were.
Yeah, I was on the Isle of Wight. So I actually watched the final episode of Breaking Bad by myself because Claudia wasn't watching it because she tried to watch the first episode and she got to the point where, let me just say, bathtub, acid, corpse. And she, and she went, nope, not watching this. Nope, can't handle this. And she, even though I tell her about what happens and about the different developments in the storyline, she says, that sounds brilliant. Not watching it. So
just give me the summary and I'll just trust you that it's great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I had this with my wife Jen, and we watched Breaking Bad together. I think for the first time, must have been sort of like 6 or 7 years ago, and she hated it. By the time she got to the end of the second series, she was like, "No, I don't like it. I can't carry on with this. I don't like him. I don't like Walt. I think that he's a bad person, and I don't like this program where
he seems to be glorified." Yeah.
No, I'm like, no. The whole point of this is that you're supposed to realize that he is horrible. And I've seen Vince Gilligan interviewed, and he talks about, like, I don't understand why people are sort of talking about Walt as a hero. He's like, I'm deliberately writing the man as a villain. What is wrong with you people?
Yeah, I actually, I mean, without trying to give any spoilers away for anybody who might possibly be listening to this and hasn't seen Breaking Bad, I remember the point, it was one of the later seasons, when the realization dawned on me. And obviously there's like different characters, and you have Walt, who's supposed to be this, I think at the beginning, he's supposed to be like a Mr. Magoo kind of character, which is an American reference I think Vince Gilligan has used as well. And there was a point in one of the later seasons when I was like, oh my God, the other guy's the decent one.
Yeah.
and it just hit me. I was like, oh my God. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
and the thing is that we've actually returned to it more recently, and I don't know what's changed, but I think for some reason now she's like, oh no, I get it now. And so we're now in the middle of season 3.
Oh yeah.
And really enjoying it again. And so yeah, it's been really nice for me to be able to sort of go back and rewatch it with her now as a couple, and for her to actually enjoy it, so that I don't sit there and go, what is wrong with you? Why don't you enjoy this amazing program?
Well, you're looking at going, I'm not sure about this marriage thing. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I knew there was something wrong with you for you actually wanting to marry me in the first place. So maybe this is the thing. Maybe you'll change your mind about me as well.
I have had those thoughts. I have to admit, I have totally had.
What about my wife? Like, what?
Well, well, I wasn't going to tell you, Seb, but
oh man,
remember that time I was in hair and I had my chest out and everything? But hey, never mind. But
mate, I remember it well. I remember it so very well.
So we have 4 questions, and there is number 1 is, what is the first film you ever saw at the cinema? Number 2, what was the last film you saw at cinema before lockdown happened? Which can also be followed with, what was the first film you saw when cinemas reopened? And then number 3, why do you think cinema is a thing? What on earth is the lure of cinema? Why has it?
Yeah, the philosophical question.
The philosophical question where we might go up ourselves a bit. And then the final question. I'm
looking forward to that one.
Yeah, the final question, what are you most looking forward to seeing when cinemas are, now the cinemas are reopened? What are you going to try and see before cinemas shut again? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It's all crazy. As the world is going crazy, the questions are in flux. So, but first of all, let's kick off with happier things. What is hopefully a happy memory? What was the first thing that you saw at the cinema? Tell them a story about that.
So, like, as is often the way with these sorts of questions about, what was the first thing that happened to you in this particular category? The first answer isn't necessarily the best one, because
I like this already.
the second one is probably a better one, so I'll tell you both. The first one, I think we saw like a cinema re-release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that my mum and dad took me to, and I must have been like 3 or 4, and I've got like the dimmest memory of this. And I was freaked out because I was sort of taken into a dark room with a giant screen playing like really loud sort of music, and Snow White. It's her voice is weird, man.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and so I was freaked out, and so I think we probably were in there for maybe 15 minutes before I was like, "Mummy, Daddy, I need to go. I can't take this anymore." So that was my introduction to cinema, and didn't really go back to the cinema for a couple of years after that. I think my parents were like, "Yeah, let's give that a wait." But the second story I think is a better one, and that's probably when I was about 6 or 7. It's at least. It may not be my second time in cinema, but it's the one that I remember. Mm-hmm. My older cousin, who was about 9 or 10 years older than me, had a part-time job working in a cinema, sort of kind of on the in the theatre world. This would be the front of house, selling the tickets and selling the
box office.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And I think I was dropped off to sort of hang out with him for the afternoon because he had a really quiet day, and he offered to show me around the cinema. And it was when Hook was playing, and so he took me sort of around the back to where the projection booth is.
Yes.
And so I got to go into the projection booth, see at the time, those big sort of projectors with the film.
Yeah.
And see the person. Yeah. I like to see the control room of like where all of that was happening. Just was magical. And then to go into the cinema itself and watch. I didn't watch the whole of Hook, but probably watched like the second half all the way through to like the ending with the great set piece and the great sort of set piece fight against all of the pirates. And,
and the Lost Boys and Rufio. Rufio. It's just like still gets me. Rufio's just what a hero. And so for me, that definitely was one of those moments where I was like, oh no, this is cool. Like that there is this behind the scenes little magical thing which projects like these amazing stories with big colors and big sort of sound and music, and it helped that like I loved the film, and me, and I think it's a weird generational thing. Me and most of my friends and family, certainly my wife, think Hook is brilliant, and there's a handful of people that go, no, you're crazy. And if you look on like Rotten Tomatoes, at the score on it, it is bombing there. It's a proper like rotten score. I have
40.
Yeah, I have to admit with you. I have to agree with you because I do not understand the hate that Hook gets. I mean, people vilify that film. People see it as like Steven Spielberg's dark secret or something, and even he himself sort of like he sort of doesn't speak favorably about the film. But I loved it.
I mean, it's great. Like the music is phenomenal, and like you've got Dustin Hoffman, like absolutely smashing it with like one of my probably my all-time favorite performance of Captain Hook.
Yeah.
And then you've got Robin Williams, man, and just you've got Maggie Smith. You've got it's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell.
Yeah, but like it's Gwyneth Paltrow, and like I think just that like random like 1 second cameo where it turns out that she's the young version of Maggie Smith
of Wendy. Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but it's because that's the thing about because in Hook I've shared this story on the podcast quite a few times as to because I grew up in Nigeria, I didn't get to go to a cinema until I was 16. And first film, Dragonheart, Swiss Cottage Odeon, brilliant. I've been waiting my whole life for that. And so Hook I saw in the early 90s, and that was it was on video. We had to go to the video rental store and get that. And I remember we used to watch it, and just the thing that got us was the flying effects. We were like, oh my God, We haven't seen anybody look this good at flying since he actually looks like he's flying. It looks natural, and we loved Hook. We absolutely loved Hook. And I remember Dustin Hoffman. And when I eventually, that was the first film I saw Dustin Hoffman in. And when I eventually saw him in another film, I was like, no, this must be wrong. It says Dustin Hoffman on the cover of the video cassette, but that doesn't look like him.
Until that's not Hook.
Yeah, exactly. Until today, when I see him in Hook, I still have to sort of tell myself and remind myself that it's Dustin Hoffman, and the only thing that gives it away from me is his nose. That's about it. But
it's also at the very end when you sort of see him with the hairpiece taken off, and he's sort of like, he's the old man in need of a mommy, and you see him there like as the old man, and you can see much more of the Dustin Hoffman that we see from other stuff in there.
Yeah.
But my other favorite thing to watch in Hook is to try and spot Glenn Close. I'm pretty sure it's Glenn Close.
Oh, yes.
This really random cameo where she's dressed up as a pirate.
Yeah, behind Mr. Speed.
On the pirate ship.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like those kind of random cameos that you see in things in like modern films, like in the recent Star Wars films, like Prince William and Harry were supposedly in there, wasn't it? Daniel Craig was one of the stormtroopers.
Yeah.
It's like, you kind of have to know that they're there to spot them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hook for me was my childhood, and it was kind of my first real introduction into cinema, and it inspired my love of wanting to go back to the cinema ever since then.
So myself, Shaun, and Sharon, who are the three hosts of the podcast, we originally met in a film quiz on the Isle of Wight in the Cineworld in Isle of Wight, which was run by a guy called Dan, and so when you say film trivia, and the second you say, "Oh yeah, what's the first film Keira Knightley's?" and I'm like, "Oh, I know, me."
Yeah.
And it just gets so. I'm going to try and move away from that, and let's.
Well, no, because I just finishing on that though. That was one of my favorite things before I left Facebook and said, "I hate you, Facebook. I'm never coming back."
Oh, yeah.
Seeing you would occasionally sort of post up the picture rounds.
Oh yeah, the bonus round,
previous night's quiz.
Yeah,
I loved those. It was so much fun.
Oh, good Lord! I remember the time when you actually sent me a picture show me you're working, where it was around where it was about
it very seriously.
It was about female characters. I think it was about female title characters in films. And what he'd done is that he gave you each alternate letter of the name, and you went, right, there's 50 here. I'm getting all these. I am getting all these. And I remember,
I've got nothing to do for the next 3 hours. This is what I am doing.
And I showed that to Dad. I showed to Dad who created the quiz, and he was so chuffed. He was so incredibly chuffed that somebody had taken it that seriously. Dad is the kind of person where those sort of things mean a lot to him. So you made Dan very happy that week. I just thought.
It makes me happy too. Anyway, sorry, I've interrupted you enough.
No. Okay, now let's move on. We will be here. We'll be done in 2 hours. So so that's the first film you saw. We now go forward in time, and we go to this point where lockdown's announced. So what was the last film that you actually managed to catch at the cinema before we were not allowed to go into them for a while?
Yeah. Okay. So I did do my homework before this, and I did listen to the sort of podcast episode that you sent me, and so I know that we aren't allowed to talk about this film because the last film that I saw was The Rise of Skywalker, and I saw it just before Christmas with my wife, and it was the first film that the two of us had seen together in the cinema for probably 2 and a bit years, I think, because my son was born in February of 2018. I've been to the cinema twice since then. Mm-hmm. Once was to see Avengers Endgame because I was like, I'm sorry, I'm such a nerd. I've invested so much in these films. I have to see this in the cinema.
It's like yes. It might make me a bad father, but I'll make up for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, all right, I'll be there to sort of like put him to bed and stuff like that. And I think he was maybe sort of like a month old at that point. And she's like, you know what? It doesn't really matter at this stage. He's a month old. We're okay. You can go away for a few hours. And I was like, thank you so much. But then seeing Rise of Skywalker was the first time that actually we left Toby alone with his grandparents, sort of for the first time. So when it was, I guess, let me think, quite a way. It was like 8 or 9 months old, and so we were visiting family for Christmas in Norfolk, and the cinema was quite a way away. It would basically mean leaving him, and also letting them do bedtime with him, and all of the bath time stuff. And those are sort of things that you can be really precious about as parents. And the other side of that, now we look back on that and be like, yeah, it's fine. Of course they can do that sort of stuff. But the first time is a big moment. Yeah. And so we went to go and see Rise of Skywalker, and so possibly we enjoyed it more because because the fact that it was like, ooh, we get to go out on a nice date together. But yeah, I'm not going to get into it with you about why you hate it and why I actually quite liked it.
It's kind of like how when cinema started reopening, and there were all these things on Twitter from like film journalists and everything like that. I think there was one called Robbie Collin. I think he writes for The Telegraph, and he was talking about the fact that he was like, I've just seen a film for the first time in 6 months in the cinema, and I'm not sure whether. I'm struggling to write this review because I'm not sure whether I was just so euphoric about the fact that I was allowed back in the cinema or whether I actually liked the film. So look, I will give you okay. I have enough distance from it, right? That my like, okay, for instance, you said the name of the film and I didn't want to retch. You said the name of the film and I didn't immediately feel like, an anger building up in my chest. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. That's progress.
That is progress. It's progress. And I will let that go because it is a good story for you. It's something that you will always use to be able to mark a definite moment in your life of your family. So let's move on. So we have this cinema thing. We have this cinema thing. You go, you watch Hook. It kicks your mind off. Then you go, you watch a film. The last film you saw before lockdown was a film made by somebody who is trying to be the guy who made Hook, and just by copying all his moves. But why do you think this cinema thing? Why do you think it has that power to, as you know, make it feel like what it was when you were a kid again? And why do you think that when you were a kid, it actually was great in the first? Why cinema? Why is it a thing?
I don't know. I think cinema is it's part of like a bigger thing that we have as society about shared experiences. Like, I don't know if you have that thing where people say it's weird to go to the cinema by yourself. Like, I have been to the cinema by myself and I don't necessarily think it's weird, but I definitely enjoy the cinema more when I go with somebody else.
Yeah.
Even though I don't talk to them.
Yeah.
I'm very much ascribe to the Kermode and Mayo list of cinema etiquette rules, like no rustly sweets and no talking and no looking at your phone, and no getting up during the important bits. So you don't really talk to people during it, but there is something about the shared experience. And this is also true, and the reason I bring this up is because it's the same sort of thing to do with theatre and sports events, of going and being part of a crowd and watching something and being entertained by it, and then all of the other stuff that's less good, like blood sports and things like that in the past, and hangings and awful things like that. But there is something that humans have about wanting to go and see something together and share in it together. And even if you don't know the people that you're sat with, right? For me, that is one of the biggest things about going to the cinema is that you're there and seeing stuff with people. And obviously, you and I met through theatre, and it's the same sort of thing. Like, with lockdown, there's been a whole load of plays and musicals and things from, like, the National Theatre has probably been the best example of putting old plays on YouTube. And that's been great because for me and Jen, we've not been able to go to the theatre anywhere near as much as we used to before our son came around. And so seeing some of that stuff was really great. Like, seeing Frankenstein, which neither of us got to go and see. I mean, obviously that was before our son was born, but we just never got around to it.
Yeah.
But it's not the same. It's not quite the same watching a YouTube version of a play, because when you are there and you are immersed in it, there is something that is quite difficult to explain. There is an immersive element to it, and cinema is kind of the same. Like, I have been at showings of films where at the end it's been a really great film, and the audience applauds.
Yeah.
And like, that's, in a way, that's bonkers, because nobody hears that applause. It's not like in a play where you are saying to the actors who have spent the last few hours entertaining you, and all of the crew, and potentially if the director is in there being sort of like, clap, 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 yeah, really good, thank you for entertaining us.
Yeah.
Literally nobody there. Nobody's going to sort of like be typing a message in the Odeon control room saying, yes, you had some applause today, and J.J. Abrams being like, oh, thank you for that. That doesn't happen. But there is something about sort of saying, yeah, we enjoyed that, and cheering.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think for me, cinema is ultimately about that shared experience. But there is the other aspect of it, which is there are films which you just don't want to see at home. You want to see them on a big screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like big event films where that it's sort of like, big set pieces, big sort of action, or big sort of technical or big sounding films. So Avatar, for me, is an example of a film that I never got to see in the cinema, and so I don't know if it's any good, because I watched it obviously with no 3D glasses at home on the television, and thought, all right, this is a bit of a rubbish story. I don't really know what I'm supposed to feel here. It's just, this is a story that's been done before. What is it? I imagine seeing it in the cinema, I probably would have had a different experience.
Well, I saw it in the cinema, and I agree with you. So,
oh, you still think it's rubbish? Okay, fine.
Well, yeah,
so, like I'm saying, I would never know, because I'd never seen it in that particular format. And there are directors like George Lucas, Christopher Nolan, who are really passionate about filming in a particular way, like either filming on film, as in like physical film, or filming on sort of digital with these IMAX cameras.
Yeah.
And so I saw the Dark Knight Rises at the IMAX in London by Waterloo, and it's just, there was something great about the IMAX. Just the sheer size of the screen, the sound. Oh my god, the sound quality is insane. I'm a bit of an audiophile as well as theatre file and film file or media file in general.
Yeah, essentially entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah, but just the sheer quality of the sound, you get from being bombarded by the different sort of surround sound elements to it, and I'm never going to have the sort of money to be able to fit my house out with anywhere near that kind of quality of sound. So there is definitely an element of going and seeing the purest version of that piece of entertainment.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to have the same screen size, the same sort of sound system. And, when you've got these amazing scores from composers like, Hans Zimmer and John Williams and stuff, you have to be there in like in the real thing. Yeah.
All right, cool. With that, we're going to move on to the original question was, what are you most looking forward to seeing in cinemas when they reopen? Now, obviously, cinemas are reopen. I'm not sure if there's anything that you have been to see yet.
No.
Okay.
No, because like I say, with being a parent, it's totally shifted what I can legitimately do for socialization as well.
Yeah.
But actually, no, since things have started reopening again, and we have started talking around to some of our local friends and saying, we'll do sort of babysitting exchange, where one of them will come and babysit for us when we go out for a night, and then one of us will go and babysit sort of for them. So we have got one of those in the bank at the moment, and I have managed to sort of strong arm my wife into agreeing to go and see Tenet.
Ooh.
So I don't know when that's going to happen. Hopefully at some point in the next week or two.
And hopefully cinemas are still open then.
Excited. Yeah, they better be. It's only 2 of us going, not 6 of us with a new restriction.
Yeah, but as you know,
as long as there are no more than 4 other people in the room.
As you know, every single time they release a new guideline, it seems to contravene 5 of the other ones they gave us. So,
yeah.
But it's okay. So Tenet, you're looking forward to seeing Tenet. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm a big Nolan fan. Always have been really. So I think the first Nolan film I saw was Memento, and it just blew my mind. Like I loved that kind of reverse storytelling, sort of, and the opportunities it opened up. It was just so fascinating. And you and I being sort of theatre sort of people that we connected over theatre. It's similar to the Sondheim musical Merrily We Roll Along.
Okay.
Except that musical is it starts at the end. How did we get to be here? And then it goes all the way back to the beginning. And so it's one of these really weird sort of storytelling mechanics where it ends in a really positive place, except that that you started in a really bad place.
Yes.
And so you don't know how to feel at the end.
Yeah.
And Memento was kind of the same. It left me really confused, but kind of awestruck by the sort of the way that I had to mentally engage with the storytelling. And I think for me, that's kind of one of those things that Nolan does, is he does these sort of, sort of non-linear, sort of mentally complex, cerebral stories. And I love that. Like Inception must be up there in my top 5 films of all time. Really, like, just again, being a fan of the score, I love the fact that he does lots of his stuff with Hans Zimmer. Zimmer,
yep.
I would probably say is my favorite composer for film over John Williams. Dare I say it? I love his work, and just the soundtrack to Inception, the score is just amazing, and just some of the performances and the writing of it, just the whole package is just such a great movie. And just so the only film that Jen and I disagree over is The Prestige, which I don't understand, because I love The Prestige. I am all about the magic. I am all about the performances, and you've got Michael Caine, you've got Hugh Jackman, you've got Christian Bale, you've got Scarlett Johansson, probably not in the best performance of her career, but then you've got like David Bowie as Nikolai Tesla, man. I mean, come on, what's not to like about that? And what's crazy is that my wife has such a crush on both Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, and yet she doesn't like this film, and I don't understand why. It's like we were saying earlier about Breaking Bad. Maybe we need to watch it again. Maybe something's changed. Maybe you should watch it again and go, hey, actually, this film's good.
Well, okay. So, have you heard much about Tenet?
No, but the reason I've gone off on one about the other films that Nolan has done is because I'm coming to Tenet with that kind of mentality. I'm coming to it with knowing that this is the sort of film that Nolan makes. And I know, and I know that they've tried to keep a lot of the story and the plot, under wraps.
Yep.
They try to keep it quite secretive, and I'm all for that. That makes me even more excited about seeing it.
Okay.
I know that there's this stuff about inversion, and that I know a lot of people who have seen it have kind of come out of it and gone, I don't understand what I just saw, which again makes me want to see it even more. But it's also really important you saying, like, how much do you know about it? Because I kind of want to keep it a little bit secretive, where I kind of want to keep the ignorance, because there are so few opportunities I have
to be ignorant
nowadays
about something.
Because with the changes in my circumstances, changes in my life, being able to go to the cinema, I can't go to the cinema very much anymore, and so when I do go, it's usually to see one of these big event films, like a Star Wars, like a Marvel film or something like that, because I'm a massive nerd. And so I've seen all the trailers. I have either read the comic books. I've already done a whole load of the analysis going to see it, of thinking what's going to happen and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I kind of know what to expect for the most part before going in.
Yeah.
There've been very few films that I've seen where I go in and I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen. And the last time I did that was probably seeing No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah.
At the time, I was reading Empire, like on a monthly basis.
Oh, the movie
Empire,
magazine, yeah.
And I was like really into seeing sort of what the sort of biggest films of that particular month were, and it was given a 5-star, and I literally read it that sort of afternoon, and I was like thinking, do I want to go and see this or not? And on a whim, decided to go and see it, having not actually read the whole review, but knowing it was 5 stars and knowing nothing about the film.
Yeah.
And walking in there was just one of those wonderful, wonderful cinematic moments where you don't know much about what you're going to see, and you are just surprised by it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going into Tenet, hopefully, in the knowledge that I feel like I'm in a safe pair of hands with the creative team, with the actors involved, and the knowledge, the bare knowledge that I know that people are coming out of it going, I don't know what I just saw, and the excitement for that is tangible.
All right, in that case, I will not say much. I will just all I will do is hope and pray that you get to see it soon, because then because we can talk about it. I don't want to say anything or anything like that, because obviously we met at a very, very sciencey university. It was all about science, and when you talk, like, essentially you talk about people saying, "Oh, I'm a nerd." Everybody there was a nerd, so so it's I would I think it's a kind of film that you would get on well with. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it at that. Say thank you so much for coming into the podcast this week. And as has happened with some of these, I think I'm gonna have to give you your own special episode, as well as have a snippet of this in the actual normal show. I think I might have to do that. And also, thank you for coming on in a week in which every single other film in the world seems to be running scared from Tenet. So there is nothing new out this week. Nothing new out. We reviewed everything. We can't do it, even though Tenet is a film that we've had to review multiple times. So but as I said, thank you very much for joining us. And
thanks, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, let's hope that we get to actually chat about Tenet at some point soon when you've gotten to see it. That was a snippet of the interview that we did. Like, what happens with these things? We were on the phone for about an hour, so I thought I'll save everybody listening to us go on for an hour and cut this thing down to about half an hour. But we're going to put the full Seb interview up as its own special thing. I still have to do that with the Juwan interview because there was so much stuff that was in that. So, Seb, what did we think? What did we like? What did we agree with? And you already know what I didn't agree with. So,
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny that.
It raises its age once again.
Funny that.
So Hook, it's interesting when you're talking about Hook, how people either love it or hate it. It seems to be one of those Marmite films, doesn't it?
I don't understand why though. But I guess because
I've not seen it. I've not seen Hook. Not seen it. I've seen bits of it. You mean we're talking about Dustin Hoffman one, yeah?
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams,
yeah,
Julia Roberts, Maggie Smith.
Yeah. It's like a grown-up Peter Pan, isn't it, who goes back to Neverland.
That's right.
Because he forgets that he's Peter Pan, doesn't he? And he goes back to Neverland.
Yeah, you see now, I just love everything about that. I love everything about that synopsis. I just don't understand people who don't like that film. But yeah, that's but hey, anyway. But yes, I think I've said enough about Hook on the interview. I don't want to add to it. but yes,
that's an interesting sort of early film to watch, because that's quite cinematic, isn't it? Because the way the colours and the way it's done, it's very cinematic cinema experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's anything that comes out to me, it's colours. The colours in Hook just sort of like stand out. Like, you just remember those scenes. It looks like one of the holy festival that they have in areas of India and stuff like that. It looks like that. It just explosion of color all over the screen. There was a whole bunch of stuff. I think there's some stuff that, Shaun, you would like that I had to cut out for time in Seb's interview. He talks about when cinema goes too far.
Right. Okay.
He talks about when cinema goes too far because he was, when he was talking about what makes cinema great and how cinema's great and that sort of shared experience and all that. And he says that he thinks that sometimes when cinema goes too far, and we have a massive tirade about 3D. We got
It was interesting thing he said. He likes to go with someone. He always likes to go to the cinema with someone, because I mean, I'm happy to go with someone, but I like cinema on my own. I mean, I'm quite happy.
I think all the three of us are in the same boat, aren't we?
Yeah, but to be honest with you, this whole podcast, it comes out because of that I think the whole thing about going to the cinema, watching it with somebody, is because you get to do this afterwards. You get to sit down and you get to go, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Oh, I thought that was a bunch of rubbish. Oh, no, I thought it was really good. And you get to have this. And so this whole podcast is pretty much the discussion after you go watch a film together, even though we barely ever watch the same film. So I agree what he's saying. I understand what he's saying about the fact that it's like you go to the cinema, you watch something, and you want to have somebody with you, because if nothing else, just to sort of like say, "Oh my God, did you see that? What was that like?" Like I can imagine, so Shaun, I can imagine
you get an instant response, don't you?
Yeah. I can imagine that, Shaun, if we'd gone to see Tenet together, we would have sat down in the foyer with a piece of paper, a pen, probably about 5 different pens to figure out 5 different aspects. I tried to work it out.
I mean, I'm still impressed with that. I can still picture that scene in my mind of the soldiers going in 2 directions like a train. It's stuck in my mind, that one. It's like, I'm going to have to probably see it again, I think. Well, I was going to go and see it again last week, but it never happened.
Well, as
I wasn't feeling too good. So.
Yeah, as I said to Seb in the interview, that I'm pretty sure we're going to have to review that film we've already done it twice. Yeah. We're going to have to do it again. Yeah, where we go like, okay, this is like the 3rd time, and what do we think we figured out the first.
Worked out what's going on yet?
I think we figured out the first third. We're pretty okay with the first third of the film. I figured it's going to be something like that. Yeah. Anything else on Seb?
But I was interested about when he was talking about Avatar, because when he was saying how he didn't get that cinema experience. So I did endure sitting there with the 3D glasses on and watching it. And there's a bit where there's the floaty bits where you're going, oh, floaty bits. Oh. And so, you do get that experience at the cinema with the 3D. But I am not a fan of 3D. I mean, I will endure it to watch the odd film. But a few times I've just got so fed up that I've actually taken the 3D glasses off and then sat there and try to watch it without the glasses on.
In all of its blurry glory, without the glasses.
With all its blurry glory, because I just get that. I just think it's like wearing face masks in shops, isn't it? You get to a point where you just want to take it off, and I get, when I'm in a 3D film, my eyes are being. I'm sort of like, ooh. I think, I just got to take them off.
I agree with Sharon. I think you can take them on and off. I mean, quite often I got used to I can't remember what film it was, but I thought, this will be a 3D moment, and then I put them back on. But quite often with a lot of films, you can actually see it, and it's not really that blurry. And then you think,
it's not too bad.
This is going to go 3D now, so you can.
I did that with the Glee, the 3D Glee concert.
Back on, and then you can take them off again. Because.
Yeah. So
right. Okay. I didn't know about that one, but. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wasn't forced to go because I used to like Glee, but we watched the Glee in the concert, and it was 3D, and so every time then you'd go, this is the 3D bit, so we'd all, and then we'd take them off again.
I'm sorry. I think 3D is supposed to be in theme parks. Theme parks where you're going you have to put on glasses for like 10 minutes. People are going to throw things at the screen. That is 3D in its element. 2-hour film, no. Yeah, sorry. I have yet to see a film that for 2 hours has justified the fact that it's in 3D. I haven't seen that. I don't think it's possible, and I think it should be done because your eyes hurt.
Yeah, I don't think it's really caught on, is it? Really, I don't think it's had a big as impact as what they thought it was going to have.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah,
but,
well,
I don't think so, because you see, when you go to the films where it's like you can have the 2D option or the 3D option, most people go, 2D, please.
Yeah.
And often it's not the discomfort of sitting there with these. And if you wear glasses anyway, it's just not nice.
Yeah.
I had a way of sort of trying to balance them, where the bridge of the 3D glasses would sit on the top of the bridge of mine, and so you end up sort of watching it like that. I was like, trying to balance.
For anybody just listening to the audio version of this, Sharon is currently tilting her head back. We're getting quite a nice shot on Zoom up her nose.
Straight up her nose. Yeah, so it was never comfortable. I was like, if you remember, cast your mind back to Blackadder. I was being a slug balancer. That's basically what. If anyone had ever watched Blackadder. That's what I look like in the cinema with 3D glasses on.
All right. So for more thoughts on Seb, to hear more of Seb's thoughts on 3D, and also he once went to see a 5D version of a film, which is as stupid as it sounds.
Doing the funny bit.
I was going to say that. What is like 4DX? And I mean, because at Cineworld now they say, oh, you can watch this film in 4DX, or I mean, I can understand some of it, but what's 4DX?
It probably means your chair shakes.
Oh, right, okay. I thought, that was...
it would have something to do with your chair. Rumble scope. All right. But anyway, Seb, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for the things you said. Thank you for all that and for your love of Tenet. We hope you get to see it, and we hope that you get to sit down with us in the room that we're going to have somewhere, socially distanced, of course, where we're trying to figure things out with a board and lines and pictures and all that. And Christopher Nolan on standby going, okay, explain this bit to us again. We're trying to figure that out. Okay, so now we get into the final film that we're going to talk about, or the final thing that we're going to talk about that we've seen at home this week. And this is me. I've seen something called High Score. Now, as a kid of the 80s who was into his gaming, into his Nintendo, into his Sega, well, I was a Nintendo kid. This is a brilliant miniseries, or a series that it's a documentary series that Netflix have done, and it's in the veins of the film. They did something called The Toys That Made Us, where they were talking about toys that people had when they were growing up, and you can tell that the people who made this grew up in the 80s, because they're talking about the Star Wars toys and talking about how like the Star Wars toys made 3 times as much as the films have made. And they had this toy that made us, they had the movies that made us, and now they've done something called High Score, and it's all about the history of video gaming and how it started off and how different things, and they touch on key touch points like Nintendo, when Nintendo came out, first-person shooters, when Doom came out, when Sega came up to fight against Nintendo, how Ataris and how you had coin ops, and how people, and I just loved it. I think it's going to be a really, really short review. I would give it a 4 out of 5, and I'd say for anybody who loved video games in the 80s, for anybody who had a party where you went onto your friend's house and you played Street Fighter 2 for like 7 hours straight until your parents ripped this cord out of the wall, or in Nigeria until the electric company took all the electricity away. So for anybody who did that, I would say watch High Score. It is brilliant. It talks about what the story behind some of the games you love, and just the sort of crazy maverick things that happen to make them go, and it's great. And there's one particular bit where they had the guy who made the music for Donkey Kong, the guy who wrote the music for the original Donkey Kong game, who's I cannot remember, he's a Japanese composer, and he sat in his office doing it, and beside his computer, I actually had to take a picture and send it to some of my friends, because he has a vinyl record that's sticking out, and it just says Sunny Ade, and Sunny Ade is a Nigerian musician. And I was like, whoa, this Japanese video game music composer has a Sunny Ade CD. It's like, number one, this guy has good taste, and number two, some things are just universal. So yeah, High Score, 4 out of 5. I think even if you don't know about video games, it might explain a little bit about what's so great about them to you. And if you have ever played video games, you will love this. Now, we are pretty much done on the podcast this week. I just want to say one more thing. A note about this week. We kicked off a group on Facebook, which is called Netflix versus Cinema Chat. And this is something for people to get on there to just have things. I think Shaun's going to fire off a question every now and then and try and get people...
Every now and again, yeah.
Every now and again. Shaun's going to fire off a question to try. I think this week you already asked a big question, which you've asked already on the podcast before, saying... Who thinks the top directors, when they make a movie for Netflix, just become self-indulgent and make bad movies because Netflix doesn't care if the movie is good or not? E.g., Scorsese, The Irishman, Spike Lee, The Five Bloods, Michael Bay, Six Underground, etc.
etc. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and I think
and was it you? Who was it? It was someone. It might have been John, or was it you that said, "How can you call Mike?" I saw John. Yeah, it was John. He said, "You think Michael Bay's a good director?"
This being Happy John, friend of the podcast, who shares every single thing that we put up. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to put in one. Yeah, I should think of some others. As I say the past week I've not really felt on top form. You know, I've not been on top form really. So
yeah,
I'm hoping this weekend I'm gonna have another relax, and hopefully I'll get back to
no, bro,
the old Shaun.
Back to your old perky self.
It's okay. Don't worry, Shaun. When you're ready, we will take you, because some people have already started posting other things like Yatish. Remember Yatish, who came on his first film at the cinema,
Yatish.
the Care Bears movie. Yeah, and so we remember that Yatish. And
is it Yatish who looks nothing like 50 Cent?
Yes, Yatish, who looks absolutely nothing like 50 Cent. Yes, looks absolutely nothing like 50 Cent. I think you can click. Yeah. You can click on it and you can see his picture. You can see his picture on the on the thing. And because he said when we asked him the question, "What are you most looking forward to seeing in cinemas when they reopen?" He was unanimous. He was just like Dune. He didn't even have to think. He was like Dune. It's Dune, and he has shared the Dune trailer on the group today. So just the which I think Sharon, you commented on because you're like, "Ooh, Dune looks good."
Yeah, I think it looks good.
All right. So
it looks like all the bits that you want in a Dune film. It looks like it's got them.
All right.
Yeah, it's good.
So come join us. Come join us on there. Come have a chat with us. Come ask some questions. And I think we will probably. I'm still trying to figure out how we can get a section from this and include it in the podcast each week. But don't worry. Watch this space. We will be thinking. I'm sure Shaun will be thinking as well. We'll figure something out. Sharon, you get on it.
I will be. Yeah.
I'll be thinking. Okay.
All right. Until next week, when we will hopefully still have cinemas open, and Seb and hopefully his wife Jen would have managed to see Tenet before they shut the cinemas down, and all that. It's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye for me.
It's a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much. Yeah. We will see you guys next week.